Hello and welcome back. It's officially the fall season, even though it's literally 80 degrees where I live right now. But I'm still trying to get in the fall mood, hence the pumpkin spice latte, the kind of fall outfit I've got going on here, and the energy to want to read again. I've been doing a lot of audiobooks lately to try to help myself get through like a period of change in my life, but everything's going really well right now. And I think my mind is ready to kind of dive back into my favorite season of reading. So I figured today we would go over the 10 books that I want to read this fall. That's spanning from now, which is like mid September, to like mid November. I've decided that I am going to do 10 books and really try to focus on books that I really want to read, books that have been on my shelf, and then two new releases that I'm really highly anticipating. Without further ado, let's dive into the TBR. First, I'm going to start off with a book that I'm currently reading right now, so I don't think this is cheating, but I'm about halfway through it, and that is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. This book is incredible so far. I really love the writing style, the commentary, the feminine rage. We love this book. This is probably going to be one of my favorites of the year so far. I'm reading this for my virtual fantasy book club, and we're going to have a lot to discuss. I'm really excited. If you haven't heard anything about this book, Emma Wong is the author of The Sword of Kaigen. So if you've read that book or heard of that book, that's where the name comes from. But this story specifically follows Sayona, and Sayona is the first ever female high mage. It is like a huge honor, huge undertaking, and with this position, she faces a lot of sexism and closed minded people in the field of academia, even though she's worked her tail off to get here. And we're following her as she's taking on this large project, and she's given an assistant who doesn't really know the tricks and trades of magic, but he's got his own backstory that might help her more than she anticipated. But I love this book so far. It is a standalone too, so if you have serious commitment issues, then you would probably really enjoy this book. One thing I will say is I'm not the best at picking like spooky books or books that give off a spooky aesthetic, but I do love books that make me think and that scare me a little bit because some of them are kind of close to reality. And I did put, I think, one or two horror books on this list. So I'm going to go over the first horror option, and that is Mary by Nat Cassidy. This book is also on my like 25 books to read in 2025 list. Nat Cassidy has my pass to write from the female perspective because he does a great job. Specifically, this book focuses on our main character, Mary, who is going through menopause, but she's also experiencing some really, really weird stuff that's not in the typical handbook for dealing with that. She's faced with the dilemma of every time she sees a woman her age, her face starts melting off. The other woman's face will just melt off. And it's very distressing, very traumatic, and no doctors will take her seriously or believe her. They just say it's hysteria, it's those female hormones getting the better of her, all the sort of things you hear. But I think this is going to be a really interesting thought piece. I want to really dive into this character's head and dissect how this is going to go. So it is a little bit of a chunkier book, but I really do like Nat Cassidy's writing. I read Nestlings last year and I really liked it, so I'm hoping that I'll love this one. Right, now we'll go over the second horror book I put on here, and I've been meaning to read this book for months now, and it also happens to be like a little bit of a shorter book, so it might fit well like after I've read like one of the longer books or one of the books that requires like my dedicated focus and attention. Anyways, this book is The Unworthy by Augustina Bazterrica. I totally just blanked on the name for a split second. I unironically love the book, Tender as the Flesh. Anyone can come at me. It is a 5-star read in my eyes because the commentary is so interesting and it's just so weird. I love it. I'm hoping to get the same feelings out of this book. I only know very few things. I know that there are nuns. I know there is a cult. I know there are sapphic undertones. And I know this book is short, which we love. But I'm very curious to see how like the commentary on religion is tied into this book. But that's all I know. I'm going in kind of blind like I did for Tender is the Flesh, so I'm hoping to like this one. Now we'll go over the one thriller book that I really do want to read, and that book is The Quiet Tenant by Clemence Michelon. I think I said that right. If I didn't, you can make fun of me in the comments. I don't care. This book has been described to me and like compared to Notes on an Execution, which that is one of my favorite books of all time. It's literally on my favorite shelf. And I genuinely don't know much else other than that. This says it's a gripping psychological suspense novel, and it's a riveting tale that shows a killer through the eyes of the women in his life. Okay, I take it all back. It's exactly like Notes on an Execution in that regard, which I love. Ooh, that also reminds me of Bright Young Women. Okay, I think I'm really gonna like this book then. Anyways, it's a psychological thriller. Of course I'm in. The next book on the list that I don't know if this would be categorized as a thriller or what. I don't think it's dark academia, but this is by ML Rio and it's their new book Hot Wax, which I'm on the wait list for currently. I'm so excited for this book because If We Were Villains is also one of my favorite books. I'm just reading all of the gems from the authors that I like. But all I know from this is that it's a band in the 90s. They're traveling and going on like road trips and stuff, and things get weird, which sounds like a great time. I haven't read like a ton of road trip stories, so I'm really excited to see that. And I also love the era of 90s music, so I'm wondering how all of that will get wrapped into the story as well. I'll probably have way more thoughts once I actually read it. We'll go over the one fantasy book that's not Blood Over Brighthaven, and I haven't started it yet, but that book is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, because this is the last book I need to finish the Poppy War trilogy, which has completely taken my soul, consumed it, spit it out, and then ate it again. It's like all of my thoughts and feelings have just been put in a blender, and it's been pulsing ever since I finished the second book, The Dragon Republic. I am so curious to see how this trilogy wraps up because I can never quite predict where R.F. Kuang is going with her books, and I'm so excited to see the conclusion. I'm also very sad that it's going to be over, but this is a must read. Even if it's not in the fall, I need to read it by the end of the year because this series is going to be an all-time favorite. Speaking of R.F. Kuang, I'll have more to say about this book. I want to read her new Dark Academia book, Catabasis. Catabasis? Catabasis? I don't know what it is. Hopefully, one of those was right. But this book is centered around our main character. I think her name is Alice, and she is an academic. And then one day, when she needs her professor to write her a letter of recommendation or she needs something from her professor, she accidentally opens a portal to hell and then has to go save her professor. But she has to do it with her classroom rival and enemy, and I don't know his name, but they have to travel through the pits of hell together to get their professor back, which sounds like a recipe for a really interesting story, lots of creativity in the depths of hell, and a lot of interesting character work. So I'm hoping that we not only get commentary on academia and everything there, but we also get commentary on like the journey and the adventure. I'm also on hold for this book, so I'm hoping it'll come in soon, and I'm hoping that I give R.F. Kuang another 5-star book because all of the books I've read from her so far have been 5 stars. So these two, being Burning God and Catabasis, have a lot to live up to. Fingers crossed. Okay, we're taking a sharp left turn from dark academia into my two literary fiction books. And the reason I picked these two books specifically is because one, I've heard the writing is absolutely phenomenal. Two, it'll make you think a lot. And that's what I love to do and ponder during the fall, you know? And then three, they're books I've been putting off and I really need to get to. And what better time to do it than now? So the first book, and I probably talked about this book a dozen times at this point, is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I love reading like really rich writing in the fall. It is like my favorite thing. It makes me feel like an academic student again, you know, even though I am technically a grad student, but it's different. It's different. This book is about a mother and son relationship, and it's told in letters, or it's like little like snippets from the son's experience, where he is now in America, but his family is originally from like the Vietnam area. And so he's cataloging his experience to his mother, who doesn't know how to read, essentially. It sounds like it's going to be devastating. It's going to probably kind of dissect what's going on in America for people of color at the time, all those sorts of things. And I'm wondering if there will be some existentialism in here too, because it says, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. Who knows? I cannot wait to read this book. I don't think anyone will be surprised about the next book. If anything, you'll probably be surprised I haven't read it yet. I want to read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This seemed like I should have read it in June when I got it. I even went to the event and got to hear her talk, and it was really cool. My friends have read this book. I read Bury Our Bones before I read this, and Bury Our Bones is a vampire novel. And I'm not a fan of vampire novels. So, like, what am I doing? I think I'm just scared because of how much I think this book is going to consume me, frankly. I mean, like, I was a girl who was obsessed with space for a time in my life, before I realized I'm terrible at STEM things. And that's why I have a book YouTube now. Um, but this story follows a main character by the name Jane, and she is caught up in like the program that got women kind of tied into space working in America. So she is part of that group, and she's like in the command center when the Space Challenger, which if you know what happens with that, is going up, and she's got to help them return to Earth. There's also like a love story mixed in here, and I hear that it's sapphic, which I don't think Taylor Jenkins Reid has tiptoed into just yet, but I'm really curious to see how that comes off. It has that historical feel to it that Taylor Jenkins Reid is kind of known for at this point. I just think this is going to be a slam dunk. The last book on this list is something wholly unique compared to everything else on the list. Like I told you, during the fall, I really like to sit and ponder and think. It brings out the academic brain that seems to work better in the fall than any other time. But I want to read The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green, because it's like a collection of different like essays and things, him just reminiscing and reflecting on the human experience, talking about anything from like Canadian geese to like sunsets and sunrises. And I love stories that have a deeply like humanistic lens put on them and tries to ascribe meaning to things. And I think that's exactly what John Green does in this. It's also nice too because like I can wake up in the morning and read some of this, but it's not like a full length novel too, where I have to be engaged from like start to finish. Whereas like I could read one story, put it down for a while, and so on. And I finally want to read it and understand what's going on. You're not going to be able to see all the books, but trust me, they're on my lap here. Anyways, these are the 10 books that I really want to get to this fall, and I need to hold myself accountable for reading the books on my shelf, so we're trying very hard to do that. But if you made it to the end of the video, thank you for spending some time with me. Make sure to subscribe and join the channel and leave a comment. Tell me if I said catabasis or catabasis or catabasis right, because I hear it said multiple ways everywhere. Anyways, you can also follow me on Instagram. I'm Pages and Pastimes over there. And I also have a Webtoons comic, which is called Tales of Grandeur, that I write and my good friend illustrates. So if you're curious about that at all, or you know someone who might enjoy that, share the news. Anyways, I will see you in the next video, and have a happy fall. Bye!